Okay, I want to go to a last subject on executive orders, executive actions. USA Today has taken a look, and you'll remember some months ago the president claimed that he was using executive orders, quote, at the lowest rate in more than 100 years. And then USA Today looked at the fine print, and yes, 195 executive orders, less than Democratic and Republican predecessors. But when you add on 198 presidential memorandum, it actually turns out he's using a lot more executive action than his predecessors, right?
Well, I think there's no doubt that the president has sought to use his executive authority to move this country forward within the confines of the law, oftentimes in the face of congressional inaction. That I wouldn't disagree with.
But why did he make this public claim that there's this criticism that I'm acting on an executive basis, and I'm doing that, less, the lowest level in 100 years? That wasn't really true, right?
It was true because the number of executive orders that this president has issued is lower, as you pointed out, than executive orders that have been issued by many of his previous predecessors.
Presidential memorandum have essentially the same effect. It's called something different, but the fact of the matter is that he's taking a lot more executive action. Why would he?
There is an important difference between executive orders and presidential memorandums, but I would not. But I would grant the premise that the president has used every element at his disposal to try to move the country forward, and he has done that in a way that is consistent with the law, that is consistent with precedent, and is often carried out in the face of pretty rigid congressional obstruction.
And last one, what do you see as that distinction? Then I understand there are legal distinctions, but big picture, what is the difference? Because both, it's still executive action. So what is the big difference according to you, the president?
Generally speaking, presidential memoranda are associated with more technical issues and are often directives that are related to a subset of agencies. Executive orders, therefore, are more sweeping and often more impactful. But again, I would readily concede that this president has, using executive orders and presidential memoranda, used his executive authority to try to move the country forward as much as he possibly can. And whether it's taking action on climate change, adding some accountability to our broken immigration system, or even relaxing some of the failed trade restriction policies as it relates to Cuba, the president has taken a number of steps using his executive authority to move the country forward. And I recognize that this was something that was done over the objection of many members of Congress. But frankly, a lot of this was done because Congress was refusing to act.
But you just said executive orders usually are more sweeping, but in the case of immigration, which you would acknowledge was pretty sweeping, it was a presidential memorandum, not an executive order.
That's correct.
So by your definition, I'm slightly confused. You said that executive orders are quite sweeping. The immigration one, which you acknowledge was sweeping, actually was not. So doesn't that make the point USA Today was trying to make, that no matter what you call it, he was kind of misleading people about how often he's using executive action?
No, I think the president was being specific about the fact that his predecessors have issued far more executive orders than he has. I don't think anybody has ever made the case from here about this president that he is not willing to use his executive authority to move the country forward. In fact, he has, and I think the numbers that you cite demonstrate a commitment to doing exactly that. Thank you, Ed. Mark?